Jaya Brajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajana Ranjana Jaya Yamuna Tirvanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jayo Yamuna Tirvanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajana Ranjana Jayo Yamuna Tirvanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jayo Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe Jayo Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jayo Jagannath Jayo Baladev Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gurudev Jaya Gurudev Hare Krishna Prabhuji and Mataji. So we'll start from Prabhupada Lamjita. It's up on your screen if anyone would like to read, please.
So, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I am starting in that case.
Yes, please.
Please therefore begin the activities of the benefit of all people in foreign countries since you have gone there. Clearly, Avoy would have liked to have gone himself. Avoy also reminded Mr. Harbanslal of his promise to provide him with an apartment. I am passing my days in Bombay in great inconvenience for want of a suitable residential place. But the latter never caught up with the touring Mr. Harbanslal. Wanting to go to the West as soon as possible, Avoy visited one of the godbrothers in Bombay, Kripa Sindhu, and asked him to help. Kripa Sindhu, he came to my house and asked me to help him in going to America. He gave me some back to Godhead, which he said I could show to people to ask for help on his behalf. I tried to do something in this regard. I introduced Avoy Babu to one man, a big industrialist, Hemraj Khandelwala. I went also. The three of us sat down and I told the man how Avoy wanted to go to the West and how he was a good devotee and was writing and doing so many things, but somehow or other the man didn't help. Kripashendu told Avoy how Gaudiya Math in Bombay had sometimes been assisted by a pious business magnate, Mrs. Shumati Moraji, head of India steamship lines. Avoy tried to see her but was unable. He did, however, see one Mrs. Moraji's employees, heard him, and to Avoy's surprise, responded generously. Considering Avoy a genuine Sadhu, this India agents offered him a 50% concession on a voyage from India to the United States. He even put it in writing. Avoy immediately began arranging for his passport and visa, but he could not raise even the half fare. Back in 1956 in Delhi, he had been struggling and homeless. And now, as he considered his last 2 years of traveling out to Vrindavan, he felt that his position had not really improved. Perhaps Krishna didn't want him to succeed in this way. But one positive thing he had gained, determination to go to the West and preach. There he would surely meet with success. Alone and poor, Avoy returned to Vrindavan. He was 62, but he was not thinking of retiring. More than ever, his mood was reflective. And to write. He wanted to write. He kept to himself. He enjoyed deep peace as a resident of Vrindavan. Outside his window, the sacred Yamuna flowed by a peaceful panorama of his private audience. The Keshi Ghat neighborhood was quiet, though in the freedom he could hear a few devotees bathing and chanting Hare Krishna.
Let's just go one more page to do. If anyone else would like to try.
Thank you. Yeah, somebody wants can do.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Please go ahead, Prabhuji. Dhanvat Pranam. Please go ahead, Prabhuji.
When the moon was full, the river seemed like a fully resplendent jewel, and in the morning the sun would appear like a red smudge, a fire burning through an opaque wall, at last bursting forth and clearing the entire sky until, in the hot blaze of noon, when the room would be in shadow, Abhay could see from his window a shimmering sun high in the sky and glittering across the silver sheet of the gentle river. Without so much as leaving his room, from his doorway he could see hundreds of temples clustered together for miles in the friendly town of Vrindavan. The various punctual kirtaners and bell ringings in the temples, the spontaneous songs to Lord Sri Krishna in the numerous homes and in the streets rose and filled the air with devotion. On the veranda, Abhay could chant Japo and there would be no interruption. He enjoyed a simple and almost carefree life or minimized physical ones, a few hours of rest at night, a little prasadam at noon, and simplest clothing. And he did not have to flatter anyone, support anyone, or manage anyone's life. His mind and intelligence were free and dwelt constantly on his service to his spiritual master. He saw his present circumstances as a preparation for a greater task before him. Despite his advanced age, he felt that he had barely begun his work, yet he felt confident. He had his vision of the World Association of Devotees. It was not an idle dream, although he was not certain how it could all come about, but he knew his duty. For the present, he would go on describing his vision, the vision of his visitors, spiritual masters, in articles and books. But as soon as possible, he should go to the West. Westerners, he had concluded, who are not satisfied with the materially comfortable life, devoid of spiritual understanding. More than his fellow Indians, he would be open to the message of the absolute truth. He knew he should go and he would go if Krishna desired. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Also, someone left the local things. Avai lived frugally in Vrindavan, keeping exact amount of every expenditure and every receipt. He carefully kept a ledger, just as if he was running a substantial business. Sorry. Even though his purchases were also little milk, a few vegetables, charcoal for cooking, bus rides, and his major expenditures, postage. Yeah.
Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. We started our invocation prayer. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jnanam udiryate nashcha prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttame shloke bhaktir bhavat neshtaki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. So Hare Krishna Prabhujis and Matajis, this is my humble obeisances. Today we will be discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Shloka number 34. And the shloka is, I'll just read the shloka and then we can take turns to recite it. Na kuryat karachit sangam tamas trivata titirshu dharma artha kama mokshanam yad atyanta vigatmakam na kuryat karachit sangam tamas tivram titirshu dharma artha kama mokshanam yad atyanta vigatmakam na kuryat karachit sangam tamas tivram titirshu dharma artha kama mokshanam yad atintya vighatmakam. Would anyone like to try?
Hare Krishna Guru Pranam.
Prabhuji.
Na kuriyat karchit sangam tamas tivram tipirshuha dharmartha kama mokshanam yat atayanta vigatakam. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, and also.
Please go ahead.
No kuryat karhichit sangam tamastibram titirishu dharmartha kamo mokshanam yad attanta vighatakam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Madhu.
Na kuryat karhichit sangam tamasti bramti tirishu dharmartha kama mokshanam yadotyanta vighatakam. Hare
Krishna. Last few. Okay, we'll start with synonyms. Na, do not. Kuryat, act. Karhichit, at any time. Sangam, association. Tamaha, ignorance. Tivram, we get speed. Titirshu, person who desire to cross ocean of nescience. Dharma, religion. Artha, economic development. Kama, sense gratification. Moksha, of salvation. Yat, that which. Atyatam, very much. Vighatmakam, obstruction of stumbling blocks. Translation: those who strongly desire to cross the ocean of nescience must not associate with mode of ignorance, for hindering activities are the greatest obstruction to realization of religious principle, economic development, regulated sense gratification, and at last liberation. Purport: would anyone like to try?
Hare Krishna,
I'll
Prabhu.
try. Yeah. You can go ahead, Mataji. You can go ahead. Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Prabhu. The four principles of life allow one to live according to religious principles to earn money according to one's position in society, to allow the senses to enjoy the sense objects according to regulations, and to progress along the path of liberation from this material attachment. As long as the body is there, it is not possible to become completely free from all these material interests. It is not, however, recommended that one act only for sense gratification and earn money for that purpose only, sacrificing all religious principles. At the present moment, human civilization does not care for religious principles. It is, however, greatly interested in economic development without religious principles. For instance, in a slaughterhouse, the butchers certainly get money easily, but such business is not based on religious principles. Similarly, there are many nightclubs for sense gratification and brothels for sex. Sex, of course, is allowed in married life, but prostitution is prohibited because all our activities are ultimately aimed at liberation, at freedom from the clutches of material existence. Similarly, although the government may license liquor shops, this does not mean that liquor shops should be opened unrestrictedly and illicit liquor smuggled. Licensing is meant for restricting. No one has to take a license for sugar, wheat, or milk because there is no need to restrict these things. In other words, it is advised that one not act in a way that will obstruct the regular process of advancement in spiritual life and liberation. The Vedic process of sense gratification is therefore planned in such a way that one can economically develop and enjoy sense gratification and yet ultimately attain liberation. Vedic civilization offers us all knowledge in the Shastras, and if we live a regulated life under the direction of Shastras and Guru, all our material desires will be fulfilled. At the same time, we'll be able to go forward to liberation. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Om Jnana Tirmendasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ulmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamischa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Advaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sakanadalita Shri Vishaka Vitan Misha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So we'll be discussing today on the shloka, which is Na Kuryat Karchit Sangam Tamas Tivram Tirshu Dharma Artha Kama Mokshanam Yad Atyanta Vighatmakam. Those who strongly desire to cross the ocean of nescience must not associate with the mode of ignorance. For Hindaic activities are the greatest obstruction in the realization of religious principle, economic development, regulated sense gratification, at last liberation. So before we go into the shloka, we just have a quick recap as to what has been discussed so far. So we have seen in the previous chapter that Lord Vishnu has came into the yajna ceremony of Prithu Maharaj, and he gave him the indication that the 4 Kumaras will be coming and visiting him very soon. And in the beginning of this chapter, number 22nd, we saw that how 4 Kumaras came as an Atithi and how he greeted Prithu Maharaj, greeted the 4 Kumaras, made him sit on the throne and asked the question. So we can see from that his main question was about the people I think it's shloka number 13, where he asked the main question, like people who are entangled in this material world, and because of their previous activities, and they are too much into sense gratification, for those people, how can they cross over the cycle of birth and death? That was his main question. And the four Kumaras are replying in this answer, how they can cross and what is the obstacle. So four Kumaras are replying answers from shloka number 17 to 40, around 26 shlokas. They have given nice updeshas. And the four Kumaras has spoken, especially in this 34 shloka, so giving the main solution that what is the reason that people are stuck in this material world? That because they're associating with the mode of ignorance. And what happens because of this? Whatever their dharma, arth, kam, moksha, they cannot even get into the stage of doing properly, following these regulated acts. So in this particular shloka, the two words are quite comes out very significantly. But one is titirishu, which means that the person who desires to cross the ocean of material existence, material ocean of birth and death. And the second word that comes out very significant is vighatmakam, which is obstruction or stumbling block. So you can see that one wants to cross, at the same time there's an obstruction. So, and what is the obstruction? That is discussed as a tamha, which is a mode of ignorance. So if we say roughly, everyone knows there are three mode of natures, that. So what do we know about mode of ignorance? What is mode of ignorance? Would anyone like to try? What do you think? What mode of ignorance is? Someone wants to define what is mode of ignorance. Would anyone like to try?
Thinking that what is good is bad and what is bad is good. Totally opposite. Thinking is
yes.
Totally opposite thinking. Yeah.
Yes. Anyone else would like to try? Right. So as Prabhuji said, Poshak Mata Prabhu, that they think completely on the other side of the story. What is good is bad, what is bad is good. So in that situation, we can see the real knowledge is absent, right? That's why they're thinking that way. The mode of ignorance work that way. They have got no knowledge. So the characteristic of the person who are in mode of ignorance are they have got no real knowledge. The real knowledge is absent, right? And that they think that they discard the regulative principles completely, and they act whimsically. Jo main kar raha hu is good. What I'm doing is good. Main ye manta hu, I'll do this, I'll do this. And they got no purpose. So what they are thinking is as whimsically, they act whimsically. And the most two important thing is what they think is they are here to enjoy, and they are the controller. They are the two basic things. That's why they are struggling here. They think they are the enjoyer. Krishna is not, and they want to satisfy their senses, and they are the controller. मुझसे सब हो रहा है, aham karoti, मैं ही सबका सब कर रहा हूं. Even though he has got no capacity to work, they also don't want to make any endeavor to work towards any activities because the knowledge is absent. So such person are called as they are in the mode of ignorance. Let's take a look slide. I have compiled it here. So you can see here. So first see from here, what the performance they do. They work against the injunctions. And due to this, what their actions are, they disregard the scriptural injunctions. And because they are disregarding the spiritual injunctions, all their sacrifice, austerity, charity, renunciation, they have got nil value. They disregard scriptures, they perform foolishness, they act foolishly, they do impure sacrifices at improper place to unworthy people. And the result that's most important here is this result of their action. They take life in the hellish world. And also, after death, destination is lower species in animal kingdom. So we see here in one stage, four Kumaras is talking about liberation. And at this other point, if person is in mode of ignorance, who is the lowest species of life, animal kingdom, how can animal kingdom person can go for liberation? It's practically not possible. There's two extremes. So if you see mode of goodness here, which is at least we can try from mode of goodness to get into the spirituality, into religious activity. But if you're in mode of ignorance, that's practically impossible. So people are stuck here who are in mode of ignorance. They don't know, they discard, especially in today's world. If you see in today's world, there is no act which has been acted as per the Shastras. People are even, I was watching a video in which the new generation, I would say the teens, they were going in college, and someone asked them, what was Lord Krishna's mother name? And one of them said Kunti. I mean, this is what they know about our scriptures. They don't even know anything. And that's why they are just living a life of like cats and dogs. That's what Srila Prabhupada says. So let's have a quick look. Why? What is the reason that these people are acting in mode of material nature? Why they are doing it? Would anyone like to try the shloka, please?
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Yeah, carry on, Prabhu.
Purusho prakriti stohi bhunte prakriti jan gunan karonam guna samgasya sadasad joni janmashu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature.
Yes.
Thus he meets the good and evil among various species.
So because of the association of the material nature, the more we associate with material nature, that will result in our final destination, isn't it? So if someone is, you can't expect, if you associate with the drunkards, you won't be drunkard. If not today, tomorrow you will be. So the more you associate with the material mode of nature, especially with mode of ignorance, that kind of qualities will start getting it. So this is the reason where Krishna says the living entities in the material world thus follows the way of living. So as Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, we are in this material world which is temporary, which is full of dukkha ashashvatam, which is full of miseries. And if we are in this material world and we are associating with, and we are bound to take association of either mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. So if we are associating with any kind of mode of nature, this is what will be our end destination, will be either good or evil. So just have a quick look. What is this material world? So in this material world, basically we see we are always having a duty of, give and take. This is the material world. So when you understand, this material is always about give and take. So if you see, if you ask a question, there's an answer. And if you want an answer of something, you have to ask a question. Similarly, if you're going for a job, you're expecting for a salary, right? If you see another example, if you got a son, if parent had got a son, then they take care of the kid. And when the kid grows up, they take care of their parents. Similarly, if you want to educate, if you want to have higher education, you need to pay some fees. And similarly, if you have uncontrolled desires, uncontrolled on your senses, you want to enjoy sex life, then you have to get married and you have to pay fees for that. This is basically, responsibilities of family and kids. Businessmen, if you want to have a business, you have to start opening a business. So it's always give and take. Not only businessmen, not only the material people, but also about Krishna conscious people, about the self-realized people. They are also having give and take, not in the form of money, however, in the form of blessings, right? So they do their service so that they can get Krishna's blessing, mercy. So they always give and take, whether in good form or a bad form. So they always give and take. And we see that this human form of life is always to give, always to give. Until person haven't learned the art of giving, that person won't be happy. So if you have learned something, if you've taken something from this earth or on this material world, your responsibility is to give it back. That's why you see many people when they die, they are having, you can see their faces lamenting. They haven't given what they want. But if you see on the other side, if a realized person, of a sannyasi is leaving the body, there's always peace and calm because they know what they have taken is very less, but they're given more to this material world. There was a very nice example where Mother Teresa was quoted in her own book that She has done a lot of social work, and definitely everyone will agree that. But in one book, she has said, and she lamented that, I wasn't able to connect these people to God, and she feels sorry for that. She left the body, but she said in one of her books that she wasn't able to connect these people to the God. So that is what the gati is. So if you're not giving the right thing to the world, then it's useless, it's pointless. That's why we're discussing this give and take about this material world. Because material world is giving us opportunities in whether in mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, like how Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, that there are opportunities that people can work in a slaughterhouse. But is that recommended? Is that a good job? They are brothels, people who have got undesirable sexual desires. They need to go there and vanquish their thirst of whatever they say, like sexual desires. So we need to know what we should take from this earth and what should we give to this humanity. So in the Vedas, there are four kands. There are four. There are three kands, which is called as Karam Kand, Gyan Kand, and Upasana Kand, right? So we'll understand what are the importance of these mode of ignorance on the main material world, which is called as four purushat, which is called as dharma, arth, kam, and moksha. People work for these four things only in this material world. I'm talking about people in general, not devotees. I'm talking about people in general, but we'll see what difference is between dharma, arth, kam, moksha for a devotee and for a material person. The first thing is dharma or atma dharma. So first of all, before digging into that, what are the four purushat? So we got dharma, arth, kam, moksha. These are the four purushat. So the purushat comes from the two words of Sanskrit, purush and arth. What does purush means? Human being. And arth is objective or the purpose. So the word purusharth means the object of a human being or object of a purpose of a human being. So the four purushat describes, these are the four things which will describe what is the purpose of human being. First is dharma, right? So dharma is basically the original nature or the character of someone or something, basically. That's called as dharma. For example, if you say sugar, the dharma of sugar is sweetness, right? And if we take the sweetness out of the sugar, would that be called as sweet? It won't be. So in this context, we can say the living being and human being, the behavior should be righteous. That should be the dharma. Whereas you now look, if you look at material kind of people, they have got no dharma. They don't follow no dharma. They have got no what is called the word is righteousness. There's no righteousness. They disobey the laws. They are corrupt. They try to get whatever the way they want. They just want to earn money, by hook or crook. That's what their motive is. So these dharma, arth, and kam comes in karma kand, whereas moksha comes in jnana kand. There's a fifth one which we'll discuss later on. So that's what the dharma is. So dharma is basically a characteristic of something or someone which described about the nature of that thing. Just as I gave an example of sugar. But ultimate dharma, if you see in the scriptures, it says in Srimad Bhagavatam, what is the real dharma? It says in 1, 2, and 6. I mean, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Sloka number 6. The real dharma, which is Saivai Pumsa Paro Dharmo Yatho Bhakti Adhokshaje Ahitukya Ahapratyata Yayatmam Suprasiddhati. So the real occupation of a person is for humanity is that which man can attain for loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord, which is unmotivated and uninterrupted. So that should be the real dharma. If you see, this is what people do. If you are devotee, this is what we do. We try to know what dharma is, and we try to go for the supreme rather than the person who is in the material world. They're too much entangled into too much into breaking the laws, just trying to enjoy themselves by hook or crook. So they don't follow any dharma, as we see in the previous slide. They neglect the rules and regulations. They neglect the scriptures. They don't follow scriptures, and that's what The difference is, big difference is the dharma is not followed. The second thing is when dharma is not followed, what's going to happen with the second thing that comes is artha, right? From dharma comes artha, earning wealth. So if for a material kind of person who has got no objective, discard the religious principle, what kind of money he will earn? He will earn by corruption, by black money, money laundering. I'm talking about extreme. You know that what people generally are indulge nowadays. So artha is like an assurance, like a material comfort, you know, for which they work. Material comfort in the sense they want to enjoy their life, will go for a movie, go for a party, you know, have security, bank balance. So they just, their motive of life for materialistic person is to work and earn money, work, earn money, earn, enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. But they don't know if they keep on doing this, there won't be any joy. It will be like an end joy. The joy going to come to an end after some time. So they keep on doing enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. But at the end, it will be end joy. However, for the realized person, the rightful mean is they. If you see here, it says under the protection of. Sorry, my screen is a bit. Under the protection of Atma, Dharma, prosperity, and economic values. That is what the actual karma is. The actual artha is. You know, it has to be under the guidance of Dharma. So if you see, dharma is, if you say an example, so dharma is like a taste of a food, right? And being religiousness is like a food. So if you want to have a real taste of a food, right, it has to, so if you, how can I explain? So dharma is like a taste and religiousness is like a food. So if you're being religious and if you're not following the dharma, it's useless. It's like a food is there, but there's no taste. It's of no point. Similarly, if you're religious, but if you're not following the dharma, it's waste. So if you, though both of them goes hand in hand. And once you are doing dharma, which is God realization person, you're earning the rightful means, but under the protection of Atma Dharma, what happens? Kama, which is focusing on the focus on pleasing the and satisfying Lord, not our own senses. So it's very nicely explained that there are two words which go simultaneously, which people misunderstand in this material world, especially those one mode of ignorance. That is Kama and Prema. So what is Prema? Prema is love for Krishna and doing everything for the satisfaction of Krishna. Whereas Kama means done for the satisfaction of our own senses. That is called as Kama. The difference is the sense and its medium. One is done for ourselves, whereas the second one is done for Krishna. That's only the difference. So when we try to satisfy Krishna's senses, we can become more perfect. Whereas when we try to satisfy our own senses, we become imperfect. Simple as that. So in short, karma is like a lust. Lust means, you know, whenever we try to satisfy our own senses. So when it comes to us, it's called as lust or karma. When we're trying to satisfy the senses of Krishna, and when we try to words again, working towards pleasing Krishna, that is called as prema, loving devotional service. So Krishna conscious movement means that we want to act everything for Krishna under the proper direction. So what does Krishna say? How can we please Krishna? It says in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. It says in Bhagavad Gita, just a second. Well, something happened in my screen here. I can't change it. Maybe now. Yeah. So would anyone like to try the shlokas, please? What is Krishna saying here?
Hare Krishna.
Manmana bhav. Oh,
Yeah, carry on, Mataji.
thank you, Prabhuji.
Please go
Manmana
ahead.
bhav madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi yuktavyam atmanam matparayana.
And the second one, 1865.
Hare Krishna. Manmana bhava madbhakta madhyaji mam namaskuru bhamanishya shri shaktamti prati jane priye ashime.
So in both the shlokas, what is Krishna saying here? He's just asking few things. Engage your mind, always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer me obeisances. Worship me. That is was how we can please Krishna. Krishna is giving the recipe here. He's not asking us something out of the syllabus. He's giving us what he wants. Like how he has said, if you really want to serve him, what you can do. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. He's giving all the recipes there. All we have to do is just follow it. And person who don't follow it, we can term this, they are in the mode of ignorance. So Krishna is giving us here what he wants. So that is called how, this is how we can please the senses of Krishna. I mean, this is how we can please Krishna, by following what he's saying in Bhagavad Gita. That is the instruction of Lord. Then comes the last, the last part, which is moksha. So when we are doing the righteous thing, we are earning the righteous thing, and we are doing, and we are trying to please the Lord, and we are trying to please the Lord. What happens? Moksha, which is the fulfillment or fruitification of the first thing, which is of dharma, right? So in other words, moksha is also known as, in material world, is called liberation. Mujhe moksha mil gayi, gati nirvan, which is free from the entangle of birth and birth and death. However, Rupa Goswami says explains the difference between liberation and devotional service. He says the devotional service is very heavy. Heavy in the sense is very deep, whereas liberation is very light. So he's just trying to compare both liberation compared to moksha, right? So devotional service with moksha. So what he's saying in Bhakti Rasala Sindhu in 1:138, he says that even if a bliss of a Brahman were magnified 100 trillion times, it would not be equal to it will not be equal to an infestial droplet of ocean of bhakti bliss. So the bhakti is so massive that moksha is just a minute, like a drop in the ocean. And similarly, if you see even Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says in Chaitanya Charitamrita what is moksha is, and what is the comparison between moksha and the liberation. Now here comes the fifth purusharth that's gonna come. The fifth purusharth is prema bhakti. The first is the fourth thing is chatur varg is what? Dharma, artha, kam, and moksha. The fifth one, which is hidden, is the fifth purusharth, which is called as devotional service, prema bhakti. So let's see what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Can anyone please try?
I'll try, Prabhu.
Please go ahead.
First. Krishna Vishayaka Prema Parama Purushartha Yar Aget Truna Tulya Shari Purushartha. Thank you, Prabhu.
And second one? Anyone?
Paschama. Yeah, somebody else can.
Panchama Purushartha Prema Ananda Amrita Sindhu Mokshadi Ananda Jara Nahe Eka Bindu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So you can see here in this shloka, these two shlokas is talking about the Pancham Purusharth, which is the devotional service, prema, bhava, So it's in the first one, it says the dharma, arth, kam, moksha, the same thing, religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, which is dharma, arth, kam, and moksha, are known as the four goals of human life, which is for material people. But before love of Godhead, in front of the love of Godhead, the fifth highest goal appears insignificant like a straw in a street. So in front of prema bhakti, all these are insignificant. Similarly, in the second shloka, it says for a devotee who has actually developed bhava, prema, the pleasure, delivered from dharma, arth, kam, moksha, right, appears like a droplet in the presence of the sea. So this is how big the Prema Bhakti is. So these four things, which is called as four Purusharth, they work side by side of our four Chatur Varga, which is material world is all based on, Pavarg जिसे बोलते हैं. Pavarg is Pa, Fa, Ba, Ma. So we see that we have got Chaturvarg. So people are entangled in this five cycle, which is Pa, Pa, Ba, Bha, and Ma. We got Kavarg, we got Khavarg, and we got Pavarg, which is so it's very nicely explained. So Pa means five and Varga means division. There are five divisions by which people can earn, the division of categories. So there are five categories beginning with five letters: Pa, Bha, Ba, Bha, and Ma. The five letters of Pavarg outline the sequence of material outcomes. The first is Pa, which is hard labor. Parishram, we can also say. With hard labor, people work day and night, just to earn money. Just like a donkey, he is taking loads on his back, doing hard labor to eat what? Grass, which his master gives. Are Baba, grass is everywhere. Why is working so hard? Just because in S. So the first thing is, like, if you see, for example, we are all working in a corporate world, we are all working people, we have got deadlines. So just try to fit ourselves in this scenario. If we are in a project, and our company is given us a project, we have got deadlines, we are working day and night. That is called as hard labor, parishram. We are doing hard work to achieve the task. This is happening to all material people. Okay, and what happens when you're working hard? If you see donkey or a horse, when they run too much, when they're working hard, what comes in their mouth? Fena, which is foaming, And in this material world, that comes in the form of anxiety, depression, stress. This is our form of fena. We neglect them. We neglect our family because we got our project to be completed on time. We disregard our family values. We just working like a workaholic, and that's called as fena, foaming. And once you're working really hard with your when you're stressing out yourself, what happens? Frustration comes when the project is declined, when you're not given the right value at work, when what you deserve. What comes? Frustration comes, which is called as ba. व्यर्थ, इसको व्यर्थ बोलते हैं. So that comes from ba. So if you see in the human form of life, we are focusing main on pa and fa, which is labor, hard labor, and foaming, to avoid the other two, which is ba and bha, which is frustration and fear. Right? So if I will just go on the fourth one, which is bha, which is in Sanskrit word is called as fearful. Right? And fear comes in the form of disease and old age. We want to avoid that, but can we? It's not possible. When you've taken birth, we have to die, and Bhagavad Gita says we cannot avoid birth, death, old age, and disease. It's practically not possible. So people focus on the first two, which is pa and bha, to avoid ba and bha, not realizing that they are mandatory. Bha is gonna come. Bha is fear. Is gonna come in the form of the last word, ma, is death. Is inevitable. We cannot. Krishna says that I am death. I will come in the form of death. So to summarize this, let's see what it says is that we spend whole of our life doing all these five things, neglecting what needs to be done. That's why I was talking about in the very beginning, that this whole material world is all about give and take. So we need to understand what we are taking, what we are giving. But for a devotee, this doesn't come in this cycle. They know what is right, they know what's wrong, and they are not focusing on themselves, they're focusing on Krishna. They are trying to please Krishna rather than trying to please their own senses. So let's have a quick look what Bhagavatam has to say about this, how we can avoid this. Can anyone please read this?
Hare Krishna. Dharmasya hi apavargasya na artho artha arthaya kalpate arthasya dharma vikantisya kama labhaya hi smrita.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So it says all occupation engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupation, which is service should never use material gain for cultivation of sense gratification. So apavargasya. So one is pavarg, which is all these five categories that we have discussed, and opposite of that is apavarg. So if we are trying to have the ultimate liberation, we should not be entangled in sense gratification. That's what the last line said. Let's see what Srila Prabhupada has to say about this. Can anyone please read this?
Hare Krishna.
Please go ahead.
Vedic wisdom. Pavarga and its components letter Papa, Bhava, and Ma indicate hard labor, parishram, foam at the mouth, phenila, frustration, vartha, fear, bhai, and death, nittu. This is called pavarga, the path of material tribulation. Apavarga, however, indicates just the opposite, the spiritual world, where there is no labor, no foam, no frustration, no fear, no death. Thus, Krishna is known as Apavarga Vidya, for he shows the path to the spiritual world. Why should one suffer from these five kinds of tribulation? Because one has a material body. As soon as one accepts the material body, whether it is that of resident or a common man, a demigod or a human being, an insect or a Brahma, one must go through this tribulation. This is called material existence. Krishna comes, therefore, to show one the path to Apavarga, freedom from this tribulation. And when Krishna shows this path, we should accept it. Krishna says very clearly, surrender unto me, I shall give you Apavarga. Am tvam sarva papirva mokshayishyami. Bhagavad Gita 1866. I shall give you protection, and Krishna has the power with which to fulfill this guarantee. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So we can see here Prabhupada is talking about what is the difference between pavarg and apavarg. Very nicely is explained that these are bound to come, definitely going to come. But how we can avoid this? How we can redirect our consciousness from pavarg to apavarg? That comes with the association. And let's see what this talks about in Srimad Bhagavatam about association. Can anyone please read the shloka, please?
I'll try, Prabhuji.
Please, madam.
Satan prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti hritkarna rasayana katha tajjoshanada swapavarga vartmani shraddharatir bhaktir anukramishyati.
Thank you, Mataji. So what it says here about apavarg, what it says about in the association of pure devotee, discussion of what? Discussion not about watching movies, what FIFA World Cup, what's happening, not about few things, which is name, quality, pastime, name, form, quality, and pastime of Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's very pleasing and satisfying to the ears and heart. It again says in Chaturshloki 10.9, my devotees dwell in me and they derive great satisfaction about conversing about me. Same thing here. It says in Srimad Bhagavatam, they get pleasing to a heart and satisfying to ears and heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced in the path of liberation, apavarga, right? And thereafter, he is freed from the attraction of, he becomes freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotional service begins. That is the beginning of our devotional service. Once we are in the right association, we're discussing right things, obviously our consciousness, our mood get changed. And similarly, it talks about association in Chaitanya Charitamrita as well. Can anyone like to try the shloka?
Satsanga tag ei Vaishnavachar Sri Shungi ek sadhu Krishna Bhaktavar. A Vaishnava should always avoid the association of ordinary people. Common people are very much materially attached, especially to women. Vaishnavas should also avoid the company of those who are not devotees of Lord Krishna.
Thank you so much. So in the previous shloka is at one stage we are trying to hear. We read that we need to associate with devotees. And the second one in Chaitanya Charitamrita is saying we should avoid the association of ordinary people. Two things: we should associate with devotees, and should avoid ordinary people. Two things. So, and let's see what Srila Prabhupada has to say about association. Can anyone read this?
Hare Krishna. One should learn how to associate with the devotees of the Lord by gathering with them to chant the glories of the Lord. This process is most purifying, as devotees thus develop their loving friendship, they feel mutual happiness and satisfaction, and by thus encouraging one another, they are able to give up material sense gratification, which is the cause of all suffering.
Yeah. So we see here what we see from Srimad Bhagavatam, what Krishna is saying. We see from Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami from Chaitanya Charitamrita what he says, avoid the association. We see from Srila Prabhupada what he's talking about association, how we should associate, and what it will and how once we associate, what will happen with, is we are trying to neglect the sense gratification potency, because we are discussing all about Krishna. We are talking all about the glories of name, form, quality, and pastime. So we read, so as Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, if we are associating with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, we are associating with the right people. All that we are doing in this material world is trying to please Krishna. Then our dharma, arth, kam, moksha will be in the right direction. Otherwise, if you see, if we are associating in the Fian mode of ignorance, we are neglecting our rules and regulations, neglecting scriptures, associating with mundane people, avoiding doing religious activities. What's happened? It says in that table form, that we will be taking birth in the hellish planet. We'll take birth in animal kingdom. We'll take birth as an lower species. What's the point? How can we go back home, back to Godhead? The question here is, the Purtumaj, which is asking is, how these people who are entangled in this material world can cross the ocean. So if we want to cross the ocean, we need to avoid the mode of ignorance. So before we just finish the class, I'd just like to encapsulate the class. So which is that we saw first the characteristic between people in different modes in the tabular form, with the table which we just showed. We discussed about dharma, arth, kam, and moksha, how devotees and materialistic people behave in those two categories, and what are the outcomes. Then we discuss about how materialistic person waste their time in the perverg, like bha, which is the five thing, and apavarg, which is liberation. And then we saw about what Srila Prabhupada says about apavarg and the association of the devotees. I'd like to rest my class here. If there are any questions in add-on, please, Hare Krishna. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Babaji. Hare Krishna.
Beautiful class. Such a wonderful class. Just regenerate the importance of our devotional service. How so important, and what is the difference between the four Purusharthas and devotional service. You nicely explained with so many examples and texts from scriptures showing us the importance, especially the Pavarga. We are always engaged in the association of Pavarga, but we forget about the association of other things, which Prabhupada was enlightening and trying to explain what is the importance of this association. And from there, I will just recollect one text from 1.2.8. So, Dharma sha anustishta pumsha vidvekshana katashuya Now padeti atiratim sama evai kevalam. If all this association does not produce any interest in hearing the glories of Krishna, everything is useless. So that is what the text is focusing on, and you have nicely explained everything in such a way. It's very easy to understand for all of us, the differences, and then a teaching for all of us to understand the different types of activities and devotionals are entirely opposite. So it is very, very careful when you do activities such that it doesn't attract the material activities, but it attracts the devotional activity. And that is only possible by way of association, as Prabhupada mentioned. If we associate with the right people, the right mindset, it will automatically grow. Otherwise, it will go down. And the result is power. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam, Prabhu.
Dandavad Pranam, Mataji.
For a very nice class. I especially liked your presentation and pictorially explaining so many concepts. It was very clear and very nice. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
And also how nicely you put that dharma, artha, kama, moksha in the devotional context. Normally we understand it in the other concept, but you put it in the devotional way. That's very nice. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very, very much for very nice class, explaining everything so nicely, so lucid way of presentation, so everyone can understand the contents which you have tried to explain. Thank you once again for that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
And hope we will come again more in this class to enlighten us. Thank you once again. And Prabhuji, it appears there is no other. If anybody, any other has any questions, they can put. Otherwise, we can end the class now.
Okay.
Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa
Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Grace Chitra Krishna Prabhu ki. Grace Srila Prabhupada ki.
Anande, Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.